You know, I never understood that leave while you're at the top of your game mantra. Quit while I'm ahead? No thanks. I would rather have a stark and sudden decline, followed by years, nay decades of diminishing returns until I eventually succumb to the cruel mistress that is time, if that's alright with you. Some WWE stars, however, very much decided enough was enough while they were at the peak of their powers, or close to it anyway. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 WWE stars who left while on top. Join us. Number 10, The Rock. One of the biggest stars of the Attitude Era, The Rock's WWE schedule began experiencing prolonged interruptions following WrestleMania X7. After dropping the world title to Stone Cold Steve Austin in their iconic headliner, the Brahma Bull took off for Tinseltown to film The Scorpion King, while also doing promotional work for The Mummy Returns. After that, Dwayne Johnson may have always had one foot out of the WWE door, but he was still treated as the major attraction that he was and had big-time feuds with the likes of Hulk Hogan and Brock Lesnar, as well as another run with the WWE title. He finished off his part-time WWE career by finally beating Austin at WrestleMania 19, putting over Goldberg at the following month's Backlash, and then aiding Mick Foley against Evolution at Mania 20 before putting his boots in the closet for almost 8 years while he set about conquering Hollywood. The Rock essentially retired from WWE at the age of 32 in order to pursue another career, though he did occasionally stop by to do important stuff like, host a Diva Search pie eating contest. Number 9, King Booker. Booker T considered leaving WWE in 2005 before Vince McMahon made the call to hire his wife Charmel and make them an on-screen item as well. Around a year later, the 5-time WCW champion's fortunes completely turned around when he reinvented himself as King Booker and won the World Heavyweight title. His 4-month reign with the gold solidified him as a legitimate main event player. Though he was no longer closing out pay-per-views opposite Batista, Booker was still in the mix at the top of the card, as evidenced by his inclusion in the 5-way WWE title match at Vengeance 2007, as well as being chosen as the comeback opponent for Triple H at SummerSlam. A day after putting over the game, Booker lost to John Cena via DQ in the main event of Raw and then quit WWE when he was informed that his second wellness policy violation would mean a 60-day suspension. At 42 and with a solid 15-year Hall of Fame career under his belt, the Houston native was set financially and had nothing left to prove, but had he stuck around a bit longer, there's no doubt he would have remained in that upper tier. Sucker! Number 8, Diesel. For a long time, the new generation was Diesel-powered. Kevin Nash's imposing alter ego went from silent bodyguard to world champ and led the company for 1 week shy of an entire year. After he dropped the title, Big Daddy Cool, now a heel, was still one of WWE's biggest stars. He headlined the 6th In Your House pay-per-view in a cage match with Bret Hart, clashed with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 12, and then received a crack at new WWE champion Shawn Michaels in the main event of the In Your House following the Showcase of the Immortals. That turned out to be Diesel's on-screen swan song, as he and Scott Razor Ramon Hall left WWE for rival WCW. Nash may have been frustrated with his position and pay, and you absolutely can't fault him for signing a lucrative guaranteed deal with the Ted Turner-owned organization, but there was a sense that he hadn't quite hit his peak while under Vince McMahon's employ, and perhaps could have done some of his best work not just with Michaels, Hart and Taker, but also the new crew of Steve Austin, Mankind and Mark Mero. Except not Mark Mero. Number 7, Sable. And while we're on the subject of Mark Mero, how about his lovely former wife Rena, aka Sable? Getting into the business almost by accident after accompanying her then-husband to his WWE contract negotiation meeting, Rena became a huge star during the Attitude Era, thanks in large part to a shifting demographic that, appreciated her impressive figure. One of the most over acts on a stacked roster, Sable became women's champion despite being barely trained to wrestle and landed a Playboy cover issue that became, at the time, the fastest-selling edition in the magazine's history. Unfortunately, a combination of her WWE success, a desire to go to Hollywood, and according to the Meros, being uncomfortable about the raunchy direction the business was heading in, led to problems behind the scenes. Things snowballed, and in the end, Sable ended up not just handing in her notice, but also suing the company, citing sexual harassment and an unsafe working environment, among other things, to the tune of $10 million. That lawsuit, which was quickly settled out of court, effectively ended her sports entertainment career for a few years at least, with a red-hot Rena Mero flirting with movie and TV stardom until the flavor of the month novelty wore off. Number 6. Neville. By the time Neville arrived on WWE's main roster, he had had plenty of worldwide experience. The man that gravity forgot had wrestled in his native United Kingdom, extensively toured Japan, wrestled for elite indie groups like PWG and ROH, and had been a top star for developmental outfit NXT. It took him a little while and a couple of character tweaks for him to really find his groove as the heelish cruiserweight champion who lorded over the 205 and under division as the self-professed king of the cruiserweights. With the former pack at the forefront, the division became a highlight of WWE programming. Not only that, but it became elevated to the point that Vince McMahon believed the Jumping Geordie could headline the flagship show. As was the plan for the October 9th, 2017 edition of Raw, when Neville was due to attempt to reclaim his crown against Enzo Amore. Supposedly sick of the grind and his creative direction, the then 31-year-old decided to walk away from WWE instead. It's hard to say how the current AEW star's WWE career would have panned out had he stuck around, but the sky really was the limit for such an incredible and well-rounded bastard. Number 5. Jeff Hardy. The ever-popular Jeff Hardy long received main event level reactions from his adoring fans, but the charismatic enigma's personal issues prevented WWE from pulling the trigger until he had proven that he could be trusted in a top spot. First capturing the WWE title at Armageddon 2008, his initial run with the main prize was fleeting. However, after a program with his older brother Matt, Jeff was thrust back into the title scene and he beat Edge for the World Heavyweight title at Extreme Rules 2009. The rainbow-haired warrior got to enjoy that for a solid 4 minutes until CM Punk successfully cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase. That set up a rather tasty summer series between Hardy and the straight-edge superstar, WWE showing their faith in the pair of them by letting their TLC showdown go on last at SummerSlam 2009. Punk won that outing and a subsequent loser leaves WWE cage match on SmackDown, with Jeff taking his leave after refusing to sign a contract extension. All the money and title runs in the world couldn't convince the burned-out Daredevil to stay on. Number 4. Daniel Bryan. The WWE career of Daniel Bryan was the tale of a generational in-ring talent overcoming the odds and perceptions in the face of adversity. A major success story on every level, D-Bry's rise to the top was heartening to watch, even if, as fans, we had to suffer seeing him continually bash his head against the glass ceiling. Then, once he had finally headbutted through the bloody thing, we had to deal with seeing repeated injuries derail his run at the apex, leading to his retirement in February of 2016. Thankfully, that retirement was temporary, and the American Dragon came back better than ever at WrestleMania 34, kicking off a spectacular run that saw him establish himself as one of the true GOATs. After over a decade of working for WWE, during which point he had wrestled everyone at the highest level, main evented WrestleMania, and won numerous titles and other accolades, Bryan Danielson decided to explore his options and left the promotion after putting over Roman Reigns. Number 3. Brock Lesnar. Few rookie years in professional wrestling history have been as impressive as Brock Lesnar's. The next big thing burst onto the scene the night after WrestleMania 18, and 12 months later, he was main eventing Mania 19. In the interim, he had won King of the Ring, became the then youngest WWE champion in history, and knocked off a host of legends including Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker. Incredibly, a year after defeating Kurt Angle to reclaim the world title at Mania 19, Lesnar would wrestle his final match for the company for 8 years, putting over Goldberg on his way to try out for the Minnesota Vikings. So, what the hell happened here then? Despite having the rocket well and truly strapped to that bulging back of his, Brock decided the money and perks of being a big-time WWE star didn't outweigh the toll of intense travel, injuries, and being away from his family. Being asked to drop the WWE title to Eddie Guerrero also had him questioning if he was really the top dog on SmackDown, and ultimately convinced him to say goodbye to the squared circle for the slim chance of playing on the gridiron. Number 2, AJ Lee. Flying the flag for women's wrestling in the era of the Diva, AJ Lee was one of the biggest stars of her time. Whether she was holding the Divas title and feuding with the likes of Caitlyn or the Bellas, involved in a top storyline alongside Daniel Bryan, or ruling over WWE programming as general manager, AJ took advantage of every opportunity that she was given and developed a huge fan base as a result. Multiple factors led to her decision to leave WWE following the post-WrestleMania 31 episode of Raw. Her future husband CM Punk deciding to walk out of the company a year prior and then getting embroiled in a lawsuit with a WWE doctor likely didn't help any workplace awkwardness, but Lee was also tired of the treatment her and her fellow fighting females received. AJ was also hurting badly, having sustained damage to her cervical spine, and content with what she had accomplished in her short but impactful career, decided to hang up her Converse All-Stars and call it a day. The incoming influx of women from NXT helped fill the gap, but AJ was only 28 when she retired, and probably would have had some cracking matches with Lynch, Banks, Charlotte and company had fate not intervened. Number 1, Hulk Hogan. When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside, you gotta take your ball and you gotta hide. Well, you hurt my Brett, and you hurt his pride. You gotta leave the Fed, it'll help if you hide. Hulk Hogan's 1993 return was a creative misfire as he twatted about with best mate Brutus the Barber Beefcake, hogged the spotlight by beating new WWE champion Yokozuna at the end of WrestleMania 9, and then refused to drop the strap to Bret Hart at SummerSlam, instead giving it back to the Samoan super heavyweight before buggering off for 9 years. Thing is, even though it was maligned by a portion of the WWE universe, bringing the Hulkster back into the fold after a months-long absence made total business sense. Like him or loathe him, Hogan had a box office track record even more impressive than his radioactive suntan, and WWE business could have used the shot in the arm at the time. Only 40 years old, Hulk would have rather been on a movie set than in a wrestling ring, and parted ways with Vince McMahon in order to conquer the silver screen. And you know something? The balding bastard only went and bloody did it.